All right. Well, welcome, 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 everybody. It is that time. We are so glad to have you with us. Welcome to episode 34 of the podcast Unlimited Wisdom with Robert Hollis. I'm Craig A. Jackman. And today, again, we have, of course, Matthew Hollis with us, as well as
Yo, yo.
Robert Hollis.
What's
And we
up?
want to we want to wish everybody watching a happy holiday season. I know that this is the final weekend before Christmas, and then
Okay.
we got New Year's right after that. So lots to do, lots to do. And also, I got to give a shout out to everybody who's watching us because we have reached 58,611 subscribers on our channel. Wow. Thank you
That's
guys
awesome.
so,
Did,
so much.
didn't you say that we had over 100,000 hours of viewing time?
Exactly.
What the hell? So we're starting to sound like a network.
Gee, should we be going there?
No, that's old school.
Is that? Oh, okay. Well, we got to give a shout out to everybody who has joined us here over the last few years and help make us make us who we are, what we are, and where we are going. Because without you, we could not do this. If you're not subscribed to our channel, please hit the subscribe button below this video. If you're watching us on YouTube, we do appreciate. Also, kindly hit the like button. It helps. And yeah, we're ready to rock and roll. Add one. Oh, is that the is that what is it? The QR code for the channel?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, then there we go. We're going to have to make sure that we have that available as well. So, without further ado, gentlemen, let's get started. Matt, Robert, great to see you guys. Happy holidays. Let's get to it.
Excellent.
Hello,
Excellent.
hello. You guys have anything you want to say before we
I,
get into this?
I mean, I think I don't, Craig is just still doing these plays and stuff. I know he's excited. And,
Oh
and,
yeah.
and Matt is like, doesn't sleep because of the 12 days of AI.
Which
Oh,
And
it's
just
more than
finished
that
today,
too. It's
right?
like that to say that OpenAI's announcements were incredible. They weren't. There was a couple, but it's what's happened like surrounding AI in general that's really exploded. Google's kind of come out the gate and actually has some really good models.
some
And
sleepers. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we're like, it's just me saying the same stuff I say like every week. Like we're closer and closer than we've ever been, um, to artificial general intelligence in general. Like at this point, maybe we're 15-20% off from human intelligence.
This
Um,
is amazing what we're going
Now,
through at this time
wait a
of the
minute.
year.
Yeah, wait a minute, Matt. So you're trying to measure AI intelligence against human being when you still have people out there that say they're scientists and they say we only use 3% of our brain. That probably doesn't take much to go by us.
well, like that hypothesis that you only use a certain amount of your brain is like movie stuff, right? Like it's you are using 100% of your brain.
Yeah, maybe we should watch
But
that movie Lucy, which was really good about when it came to saying using 100% of our brain. And
yeah, was that other
yeah,
one with the pill with a couple of big actors were in it, but I don't remember exactly what it
yeah,
was.
Lucy
But
was with Scarlett Johansson, and
no, I
it
know
was it
that
was
one.
yeah, it was really really
There was like
good. By the
an
way, go
yeah,
ahead.
it was like Limitless is the other one
Oh,
Okay.
where it's like, oh, take a pill, and then now all of a sudden you're like you can use all your brain, so now you're actually like a smart person. It's funny because it's like, when you think about general intelligence and stuff with artificial intelligence, in a lot of ways, it's more just getting it to get those areas that humans really excel at. Like we're really good at trial and error learning. And
right.
I keep saying this, like training AI and working with AI is like given me a lot of insight into how I work as a person and how other people learn and other people work, right? Um, so to see where it currently is at this time, and like just 2 hours ago, they announced the O3 model, which isn't out yet. It'll probably be out next year. They've still got to do some safety stuff. But then hearing like Anthropic and these other companies that are very close as well say it's already like pushing the boundaries of like replicating itself. So we're already kind of at that point where we're having to keep it inside of Pandora's box as we partially open it to like get
Wow.
glimpses, um, which is pretty insane, you know.
It's interesting to
So
see how they do this because obviously it's a slow intro when if they just what took the lid off completely, not that they already, I mean, they in a sense have because there's no going back.
Right.
But as they continually open it and maybe close it a little bit and open it and close it a little bit, it's interesting to see how they're trying to control it without it becoming a viral entity would be a way to put it, right, Matt?
yeah, well, I mean, you have situations where it can be used in very malicious ways.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the main concern. To me, I don't live in the realm of like if it would be used in malicious ways. It will be used in malicious ways. It's not like an
Right.
if, it's a when,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
If not already.
Oh
Oh, I'm
yeah,
sure
of
it already.
course.
I mean, if you've gotten a lot of spam lately or
Yeah.
phone calls from, a lot of it is there already. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like all these tools, some people like the internet. I've said this before, but some people are going to look at the internet and see the world's greatest tool for malicious means, for stealing things, for doing all these stuff, all these bad things. And then some people are going to see it and go, holy shit, like the things that I can create, the things that the next step that I could take. I'm more on that realm, but I'm also not going to sit in the place where I think that the other realm doesn't exist. I know it already exists because I've seen people
Yeah.
already use it for malicious means. Um, and to say that that won't exist moving forward, of course it will. But I'm a huge advocate for figuring out where it fits into your life and
Mm-hmm.
using it to those means, you know, like don't think so much about what other people are using it for. Think about what you're going to use it for.
I think this
Because I
is
think a lot of people don't.
yeah,
So
yeah, I think this is a good time to evaluate what it is kind of you want, what you don't want, and especially as it comes to your relationship when it comes to the internet, email, text messaging, because all of that is being affected and will continue to be affected. It's like I know one of the things that I don't do is I don't answer the phone unless it's a phone number that I know,
Right.
and I just let it go to voicemail. Or the same thing with a text. If you don't know who it's from, especially if they don't start saying, "Hey, this is Matt" or "This is Robert" at the front, and it's something that it's a phone number that you don't recognize, don't take it. Let them do a little more explaining. So it's a matter of you not jumping all in that regard, but still maintaining a control of what it is that you have, so that you don't get caught up in all of the traps that are out there. I mean, clicking on things that you're not aware of. Again, that's typical basic internet knowledge that we have, that you shouldn't do, but I know a lot of people do. They're excited about things like that and they want to get to it and they want to be at the forefront of things. But you got to take the time to be careful and you got to take
Yeah.
the time to learn about all of this stuff.
I always think too, it's where you get your information. We always hear this thing is, and in today's age, it shouldn't be all the old books and all the great people that are successful always talk. You become who you hang around, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want you guys. You guys are more read and have more like book knowledge and stuff than I have. But what do you call the thing where you get pulled over for speeding? Say you get pulled over for speeding, right? And then all of a sudden you're at that place where you're now very Larry. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you forget. So I find it very interesting that all of us got to listen to all different kinds of medias telling everybody that Donald Trump didn't have a shot. And in a blink of an eye, when Donald Trump got elected, then everyone took a breath and said, everyone's fucking lying to me. All the sources I was listening to is lying to me. All right. So then all of a sudden, you know, we forget very, very quickly, So right now, if you watch the news, if they're not saying something negative about AI, is like we are in a crisis. Oh my God, the government's shutting down. We're in a crisis. Oh my God, And I'm going like, wait a minute, wait a minute. Aren't you the assholes that lied to me about everything? So Matt and Craig, I know you both know this, but I was blessed to go to New York and get interviewed at the Ritz-Carlton for 60 Minutes, 2020 with Barbara Walters and Hugh Downs. And the suite that Barbara Walters did all her interviews in, there was a guy he got to do his very first interview on 2020, and that's a guy named John Stossel. And he's the one that interviewed me and two other guys about anything. I was on the good side, by the way. We got to go through this. And so it was funny. I've always been connected to him. He calls himself a libertarian, but he's one of these guys that just basically calls out a bunch of bullshit. And the thing that he was telling us today is like, the government's going to shut down if we don't find a way to all agree that we can go further in debt. And then all of a sudden, it's like, wait, this has been going on since 79? 1979, they decided to pull this shit out where we'll just do it for 6 months and then we'll get more money and then we'll do it for 6 months and then we'll ask for more money. And I'm going like, there's no way that it's been going on this long. And so every 6 months, they want to scare the people in America that, oh my God, if the government shuts down, we're all in trouble. So just let us put as much shit into a bill that we want to pass. And they're going, yeah, but we got to pay the military. Oh my God, we got to pay the federal employees. Of course, you guys can vote that. And get this, 6 months, twice a year, this is always the bill that the Congress and the Senate put their raises in. And I'm going like, so now all of a sudden someone, reaches out and just goes, hey, listen, no one even had time to read this bill. And now the whole world is saying that it's going to end. So this John Stossel piece, I just wanted to get your guys' input on it, because John Stossel is going, so during the Obama administration, the government did get shut down. It totally shut down. In the other 8 times that it's happened, oh my God, it happened 8 other times. Everyone that they didn't pay got paid. So they're telling us that people are not going to get paid. No, they take care of them. And when government comes back, they give them all back pay. So what really happened during a government shutdown? Some people weren't allowed in national parks. And also the garbage didn't get picked up in the national parks. So the last time that happened, a bunch of citizens went out and picked up all the garbage in the parks. And so he was going, golly, why do people keep making this a crisis? This is a crisis. Our government's going to shut down. And it's really just a smoke screen and a bunch of bullshit of a bunch of kids that are still kindergarten fighting over who's going to get what passed in the bill. And I think it just, oh my God. So when I hear media tell me, Matt, how bad AI is going to be, I just wanted to bring that up with you, because I'm like going, yeah, these are the same people that told us that internet was bad and that everyone would be addicted to porn and no one would go to work anymore.
Right. Yeah, well, who's to say that didn't happen? But no, there's a decent amount of it. It just took a couple generations.
Yeah.
But no, I think when you think about the circus or whatever's at play, outside of the things that I'm talking about, it always comes down to the same things. It's like, what does money really give you? It gives you power, and even if you had all the money in the world, doesn't matter if you don't have the power to utilize it or do these things. I think Elon and a lot of these billionaire people came to the realization that they no longer needed to just get a piece of the cake. They could have the cake and eat it, as like they could do it all at once, instead of going the route of taking a couple of steps to control the United States government, Congress, Senate, and presidency, instead of doing it that direction, which used to be done through lobbying and used to be done through back channels. They slowly but surely started to realize that the American people really didn't care if they did this stuff in plain sight anymore. You could
Right.
do this. You could go all the way back to the Panama Papers or any of these types of things, that these huge disclosure events, whether it's the Panama Papers or the Jeffrey Epstein files or these types of things, that really could incriminate a large amount of the people that run the countries and the organizations that control this country and control the world in a certain sense. And a lot of these things were like somewhat disclosed to the American people of their acknowledgement. You can even take this shooting of the CEO with the Luigi stuff. All of that stuff circles around the exact same thing, and that is how long the American consciousness can stay on one point before it moves to the next. And the reality is that that time is so slim now at this moment in time that you could create certain levels of atrocities or certain levels of things, and people kind of like don't really care as much anymore. So it's more about the headline that you have for next week than it is about the responding to the headline you had last week.
Great
Like
point.
that's more the important thing. And it works similarly to the way that social media and like to a certain extent television used to work, whereas like tune in next week for this, right? People are more interested in getting on social media to not miss out on whatever the thing that's currently being talked about than to have public discussions about what has already happened, right? And
Wow.
so since that's now more the case, you have to have a system that constantly has something new to talk about. This is why Trump, I think, works so well as the president of the United States, not because diplomatically he'll work, but because he's an easier smokescreen in a sense for things happening or not happening in the United States government.
He is the
Yeah.
master. He is the master of the shiny ball syndrome. That's for damn
Yeah,
sure.
no, he is. And I think
Look
he's
what's
just,
happening in the today's headlines. I mean, so much going on. Sorry, Matt. I just
yeah.
just wanted to
Yeah.
point that
No,
out.
go
Keep
ahead. I
going.
want you guys to tune in or chime in on
Well,
what you think. So,
when I first talked about it, is there a word for the concept of how fast we lose attention to we had something bad happen and now it's like nothing? Is the word just attention? Is
well,
it
it's
Yeah.
importance, right? Like it comes down to, I think,
like
when you have a
not sensitive?
society.
It's like there's no
Mhm.
sensitivity to this atrocious things that we talk about. It's like, someone all of a sudden said, I think today, and I could be way wrong, you guys, but I thought I heard today that it's been 4 years that, the Russian and the Ukrainian war has been going on. I'm going, fucking no way.
Mm.
No way has it been 4 years. And I'm going like, but I don't know how long it's been. That's the sad part right
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
And that and if it
It's the
was three
attention
years, 4 years, 6 years, does that make a difference?
it's the attention span and the fact that we've gotten away from, in my opinion, it's the attention span and the fact that we have gotten away from what the United States was created for and what democracy is about, how we've been, I don't know, hijacked, for lack of a better way of putting it, for, the greater good of the entire country as opposed to the greater good of the few people that are on top that have the money and that they have somewhat of a control. And the people are just thinking, well, forget this. Government doesn't represent me anymore. So why should I vote? Because if you look at
Wow.
what happened in the
Wow.
24 elections, there were, I think, more people did not vote total that combined for the vote for the not combined but that for each of the Democratic and Republican voters. So here's where they were, but the registered
I think
voters who
it
did
was,
not vote were way up
yeah,
here, like another
yeah,
20
it was
million
like
people.
140 million or 145 million combined people voted, and
Right.
179 million didn't that were eligible to vote.
Exactly. And
How
you
do I know
can't
those
have
numbers? I was curious myself.
yeah, and you can't I mean, this is what brought out the people in 2020 to remove Trump from being president then, because all of a sudden you had an incredible amount of votes. And he's sitting here saying, I can't believe I lost. I can't believe. Well, the popular vote said you lost.
Yeah.
End of story. Now, come back to 2024. And yes, there is so much going on. Okay, fine. Apparently, a lot of people felt that the Biden administration did not do well over the 4 years. So instead of voting to maintain what would be considered a democratic process, and I'm not saying that that may not continue, but given what Trump has been saying, and like you've said out loud, where he may not do this, and we may be hijacked from that. But the fact that more people, there were a lot more registered voters who didn't vote, who could have swayed the election one way or the other, and I'm going to say it that way. It could have gone more red, more blue, but
Sure.
when you compare it to the 2020 election, a lot of people didn't vote, and that could have made a big difference in where we are today.
Well, just like
I
AI
mean,
said, AI said, the person that's going to win is the person that gets the most people to show up and vote.
Absolutely.
It's just a, so when more of a percentage, when I guess that's 50%, that's more than 50% of the people, probably close to 52, 50% of eligible voters said, I'm just not going to participate in this whatever fucking game the rest of the people are playing.
Exactly. Exactly. And because apparently people have thought,
That's
and
in
now
the
also
circus.
part of that is the influence that Trump has brought out over the 4 years since he lost the election. I will give Trump credit that as a marketer and putting word out, he's done an incredible job because he swayed a lot of people to his cause or to the cause of, I'm tired of government. I don't want to deal with this. I'm not voting.
Right.
Even though, yes, maybe Biden did have a better plan. A lot of things happened under the Biden administration that have taken us from the 2020 elections
Right.
through the 24 elections that have, I guess, been better. Inflation was going down, but we had a lot of other circumstances
People
too.
don't care.
Exactly.
People, it's people now have been okay with all I know is that I paid more for fucking eggs and I'm pissed.
Yeah.
It's like when you want to think of the rest of the world, or like you said, the betterment of humanity or the best of mankind, it really all came down to I'm paying more for fucking eggs. I'm that and some heads got to roll because I paid more.
Exactly. And regardless of whether that was right or wrong, it's exactly it. And part of it also is the communication that people experienced who were on, let's say, the blue team versus the red team. A lot of people obviously felt that the blue team was not communicating whatever the situation was as well. And they saw the red team saying, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, continually beating them over the head. And guess what? We have where we are right now, and it'll be interesting to see what happens come January 20th, 2025.
Well, like we talked before too, when all of a sudden you see the most wealthy people on the planet that have the most members on their service, whether it be Amazon or Facebook or whatever platform, and all of a sudden Chat GPT, and all of a sudden you see these people coming out going, I'm going to give millions of dollars to Trump's inauguration. I mean, I really, really see a lot of people are like, listen, apparently these people are persuadable. I just don't think they believe that they could get the ear of the person of power back then. And so now all of a sudden it's wild to watch what's happening in the world because the people that I felt they had the power are losing that power and they're going off the frickin' rails. Now, that doesn't mean that what's going to happen is going to be good or bad. I still have the belief, when Matt talks about AI, I'm just so optimistic that everything that's happened in this minute minute of time. I seen a really cool post the other day and it said, okay, the thing that happened to you today that pissed you off, how is it going to have significance in your life 5 years from now? It's not. It's zero. And
Yeah.
so I just think that maybe some people are really upset that people maybe have figured that out. That people find out that, we hear that for you to be an incredible person and be happy and fulfilled, you got to live in the now. Well, that means that I wouldn't think about what administration did and what I believe that the next administration's going to do. So I love when Matt's like, hey, I don't know what's going on. I asked Kyle last night, Matt's brother, and I said, do you stay abreast with what's going in the world? And his answer was perfect. He says, depends. And I go, depends on what? And he goes, whether or not the stuff that I'm watching from a streamer, whether or not they're talking about it. But it's pretty obvious that him being a gamer and on games and watching selective YouTube videos, that people like Kyle is one of the 179, the 179 million. He is totally detached, had no interest whatsoever in registering a vote, and also knows that his vote doesn't matter. And there's not a person on the planet watching this video, live or recorded, that could convince my youngest son that his vote counts. That's fucking sad. So, hey, I'm strapped into my seat and I'm riding this roller coaster and I'm going to do my best not to pay attention to the naysayers or the people that are going to tell me that everything's going to be great. And I always see that in my son Matthew as well. I want to give him a little bit of kudos because he's like me. He gets locked in on his imagination and his imagination. And when you're in that groove and you're in that imagination, you do start to really think, well, none of this shit matters. It's like, well, they could do this or they could do this. Hey, it's so what? You know what I mean? It's so what? They could raise the taxes, lower the taxes. They can do a lot of things, but a lot of stuff does not affect me and my household. And now there's a large group of people out there that are part of the 33rd and a third is going like, Robert, you got to care. You got to care. You got to care. You got to step in and make a difference. When I know personally in my heart that I've given more money 1 month to people in need than they have their entire life. So it really gets really hypocritical when people tell me, Robert, you should care. You could make such a difference when they don't know that I do care and I do make a difference. See what I mean? It's like, but you're not making a difference the way I think you should. You got to get a sign and get away from your job and go stand in the streets. That might be your calling. It's not my fucking calling.
Yeah, I mean, how often? Well, I was gonna say how often people do that. I think they just want a form of significance, just like I would or anybody else would. When you
It's a
start to
huge,
deal, yeah, when
it's a
you start
human
to
need.
deal with
Yep.
that stuff, you want to share something with the other human beings that you have here. And I think like what you're touching on, Dad, is very true. Like there's a lot of I don't know. I think that there's a large amount of people that feel like helpless unless if they are on a certain position or a certain space. But the reality is you're actively like keeping yourself from figuring out what it exactly is for you when you're constantly attaching yourself to whatever it is for somebody else and
Say
letting
that
people
again.
like
Say that fucking
well,
again.
well, it's just like you. I do this too, but it's like you become significant through somebody else. So it's like you see a passion, something that someone's passionate about, and you become passionate about it, and allow it to kind of permeate your being and share it because you believe it's significant. Doesn't mean it's not significant, and maybe it shares this significance to you in some way or to where you are right now. But I think as the world starts to grow and artificial intelligence grows, I think that there's a large amount of energy that's put on this significance, where whether it's your job or whether it's what you've accomplished or whether it's what you've donated to charity or what you haven't donated to charity, we say these things or we do these things based off of the significance that we think it gives. And it's not necessarily the significance that it gives us, but that other people give us for doing it. So you
Right.
could ask yourself, okay, there's a large group, and you've even challenged me on this, Dad. There's a large group of people that would say Mr. Beast is a huge piece of shit. And then there's a large group of people that would say Mr. Beast is one of those people that is incredibly philanthropic and has helped and changed people's lives, have brought more awareness to these things.
Got a
Both
show on
those camps
Amazon.
exist.
Got a show on Amazon.
Right. Both those camps exist and both are true. You know, both can exist in real reality. It doesn't make one right and one wrong or vice versa, right? Because it depends on who you're communicating with.
So true, man.
You know,
So
if you
true.
communicated with an entrepreneur or somebody like that, you could look at what Mr. Beast has built and someone would go, how did you accomplish that? That young, that much influence, that much power, right? And it for that person, that's like he's reached the pinnacle. And then for a philanthropic person, that you could look at him and go, holy shit, like I wish I had the opportunity to give back as much. And then you could have someone that's a YouTuber, you know, man, I wish I had that much influence. I wish I had that much of a following. There's multiple different areas that someone could excel in. And then you take a step back and go, he's old enough to have a family and children, but doesn't. He spends every single waking moment, similarly to Elon Musk, working, right? Not with his family, not with his with the people necessarily that he cares about on an emotional level. He's spending more of his time on something else. And you'd have hundreds of millions of people, maybe those people that didn't vote, that go, you know, Donald Trump really didn't spend a lot of time with his children. I don't respect him because I don't respect him as a husband and as a father. And so therefore, I don't respect him as a human being.
Right.
Now, on the entrepreneurial side, you'll have people go, I respect him a lot. Could really give a shit if he wasn't there for his children, wasn't there for his wives, cheated on his wives, whatever. It doesn't matter to me because what he accomplished entrepreneurially or what he So I said all of this to say that
people do that. People are able to do that really easily with sports. You ever notice that? It's like the person's persona or who he is or what they are outside of the sport. It's like, well, I'm not interested in that. He can catch footballs.
Or multiple,
it's like
we're multiple
they won
layers.
They won a Super Bowl. Well, wait a minute. He's a piece of shit. And he beats up people. Yes, but he won a Super Bowl. I remember I still have a difficulty with Kevin Spacey because I think he's a fucking incredibly talented actor. I like him. So then some people came out and said he did some shit, and we have the right to go to a trial and have all the evidence come out and have a bunch of people listen to it. And they came back and he was not convicted on anything. All right. And people go, bullshit. Money got him out of it. I still hate him. And he's a bad person. And I'm going like, where does this guy get a fair shake? Where, you know, so when it all comes down to where the rubber meets the road, you know, I guess studios like Netflix or Amazon or whatever sort of go out there and see if there's still some Kevin Spacey fans that can say, I'm just believing that he's innocent. And I don't think he did that shit. And I'll watch one of his shows. And that's, you know, I heard just recently with his face, Charlie Sheen is coming out with a movie. And I'm going like, did this guy like totally blow his fucking personality like fucking 10 times? Not Robert Downey Jr. We all know that, you know, he's been able to regenerate himself and stuff. But it's like, man, I think Charlie Sheen has, you know, been in the toilet a couple of times. And it's like,
he's got tiger blood though. So.
You know, it's interesting because I remember, and I think I've brought this up once at least during our podcast, those of people that watch Howard Stern or that listen to Howard Stern. I used to work in radio in Fresno, and we used to get the feeds in between getting the shows off the networks. So one day I listened to him, and it was like he was saying exactly what you need to do if you don't want to watch him. Turn me off. You don't like what I say, turn me off. Because what's going to happen? Okay, then all the people who pay me the money, like the advertisers, once they see that my numbers are going down, then it's like, oh, now I got a problem, because the network's going to say, you're not bringing in the numbers, you're not bringing in the advertising dollars. We don't need you. We don't want you. See you later. Goodbye. In a sense, that's what happened with Fox and Tucker Carlson.
Right.
Where,
But to stay on Howard Stern for a second,
yes,
that was back in the day where council culture wasn't big, but it was
right.
still big enough for him.
It was
I
big
mean,
enough for him and a few others, like Tom Likas is another
holy
one.
crap. The people
Yeah,
that went after him, it's like, look what he's doing to women. He's got women on here and they take their clothes off and then they're throwing baloney and seeing who could stick a piece of baloney on their butt cheeks. You know what I mean? People are going like, this guy's got to go. No,
right.
he gets a record deal on satellite, right? Right.
Yeah, the Sirius XM. Exactly. And what do they, and he goes, all right, fine. Terrestrial radio, that's what you call the radio that you have in your car or your little portable or whatever. Terrestrial radio, I'm gone. See you later. So what does he do? He moves over to satellite radio. He takes his entire audience with him, the radio station that he used to be with. The audience drops, and they all follow him over to satellite, and he becomes the biggest satellite broadcaster at that time. And he still continues to make money for Sirius XM
Wow.
because people are willing to pay for it. If you're not willing to pay for it, and I'm sure he's got some great advertisers on his network show right now too.
That's funny, man.
No, Howard Stern was one of those guys that was a pioneer in a lot of ways, not in a sense that he foresaw certain things happening, but more
Right.
that he's a perfect example of where culture has moved to in real time. So you can see somebody who came up in the system at play, and this has happened in multiple different industries. Music's another one, but you can have an industry that's so concrete in the rules that are allowed. And then you can have somebody come in through that, and you can have everybody in that medium try to stop that from happening. And what normally ends up happening in these situations is a new medium shows up, that person becomes that new medium, and the old medium dies, right? It's like, okay, what's the next extension of what he was doing? Well, he has a lot of influence, so let's see if he moves from one place to another, are people really watching just for him, just for that influence that he has, not for the network that he's on or the advertisers, the people that show up, really just for him. Does he have enough of that influence? And the answer to that was yes.
Yeah.
Well,
As
yeah.
the internet started to grow and broadband started to become more accepted everywhere, we saw the next evolution of this in podcasts and things like Joe Rogan. All of that already existed with what Howard Stern is doing. Now, why is Howard Stern not the number one podcast in the world when that's the next version of what he's doing?
Hmm.
And that's the answer is because he's a radio show host.
Yeah.
And
He
so
helped
that's
make the transition from radio to podcasting, satellite. He helped make that transition for everybody else. And then
right.
you have people like you were saying, like Joe Rogan or Theo Vaughn or
He
whatever.
doesn't, to
But
my
you have,
knowledge,
go ahead.
Howard Stern, because of the contracts he signed and stuff as well, still lives in the same realm. He's in that in between. He's got the influence, but he doesn't allow the access. Now, without
Mhm.
the access aspect of it, he's missing the critical part in what that
Wow.
new medium
Wow. Got
is.
it.
So
Got it.
somebody
Huh.
like Joe Rogan not only is successful, but you also have access to Joe Rogan that you don't have to Howard Stern, which
Yeah.
makes him more it makes him more normal and accepted for everybody around. They go, Joe Joe Rogan could be worth more than Howard Stern. It doesn't really matter because he's more accessible than somebody like Howard Stern. People don't
Absolutely.
understand how important this is in like new society, that it's actually the accessibility to these famous people that makes them more famous and gives them more influence. That Elon Musk is more successful than any of these other billionaires because of the access to him, not because of any
Wow.
other
Matt, this
reason.
is
And it was
deep.
that it was
This
figuring
is
that
deep.
aspect out that really had made him and Donald Trump the more like, how can Kamala not go on Joe Rogan and not see that that was a massive mistake? Because
Oh
she
yeah.
didn't understand that building out a whole entire set for access for Call Me Daddy was the opposite of access.
Isn't this
That it
exactly kind of what
that
Robert is
it's that
saying?
that
Where
was the part that people don't like anymore, right?
yeah,
Right.
we got to live
Yeah.
today, not what happened in yesterday, and we got to be able to kind of flow with the stream. Okay, if you want to go, go with that, we got to be able to go with the flow in order to keep moving forward. And this is where you have businesses like, let's say, Kodak or Blockbuster, who have not gone with the flow, and look where
Well, they were
they
a precursor
are.
to the flow.
They
You
were,
can't.
yeah,
This is the
Yeah.
thing, is like it's in our minds for some reason. And I was listening to this song the other day, and everyone's gonna know what it, or everyone here will know what it is. But it's a wonderful world song, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I think the
yes.
skies are green. Have you guys listened to the lyrics of that song? Because there's an element of that song that talks about um, how the next generation will know more than I have ever had access to.
Wow.
I'll find this specific lyric, but that song's been around for a long time, but I was actually listening to the lyrics. Um,
Isn't that
and
cool? I just love all of a sudden listening to
right.
the words and you go, whoa,
Well, it
whoa.
hits you in a different books and movies and
You're
music.
a
They all
different
do this,
person.
right?
Hopefully you're a different
Right.
person.
So it hits you, and it really makes you realize one of the pain points of humanity is the non-acceptance that the knowledge moving forward is going to be better than yours and defeat yours, and that's the way evolution and things work. Your job is not to stay as relevant for as long as possible. Your job is to be relevant in the time that you exist, and then pass that on to the next version of what that
Man,
relevance is. The
deep.
people that consistently try to like stay relevant in that, um, I to be honest, they just phase out, and the reason that they phase out is because they're no longer looking to evolve and adapt to whatever that is. You could have a 78-year-old man or whatever that can have more relevance than a 20-year-old kid, and that comes down to the understanding of what is currently relevant. Like
Right.
that's
Well, I think another thing too is that that's deep stuff, Matt, because I think a lot of people are not okay just being authentic and being who they are, and just know that the audience that they attract and being so is enough. Is
Yeah,
enough.
like your authenticity might mean that you have a group of five people, and
Yeah.
that might have been
Or
a
like we
crowd of
talked about,
10,000 30 years ago, but
yeah,
it's not anymore. And to think that everyone all of a sudden will come around and it will become 10,000 people, you're wrong.
right.
Odds are you either need to drop what you're doing and do something brand new that's going to be that 10,000 person thing, or accept that thing that has five people is just you, and that's perfectly fine. Like,
Yeah,
but don't think that it goes the other direction, because it
right.
really doesn't.
It doesn't. It
So,
doesn't. I love that story, regardless of a person's belief, where, it's about, a pastor that is like a third or fourth generation pastor. And so all that person's ever known is that his father and his grandparents and his great great grandparents, this is what they did. That, the environment that you grow up in. So he just dedicates his life to it. And, the story goes, whatever your beliefs are, that now he's at the pearly gates and he's going into heaven. If a person has that belief, and now they're going to where he's going to live, and he realizes that he's a couple of suburbs away from the kingdom, the castle where God and Jesus is hanging out, if that's what you believe in the story. And I love that part where he goes, wow, who lives up there? And he goes, oh, you know her. You know one of the people that are up there. And he goes up, and the story goes that when he meets her, it's the lady that was the janitor for the church. And he's going, I don't understand. And he said, this lady prayed for your great grandpa. She prayed for your grandfather. She prayed for your father. And she prayed for you. It was her prayers of why you guys did what you did. And you can use that story in any way that you want to use it, but I always think you see an incredible athlete. We all know this. They do these spectacular plays that are on the highlight reels of ESPN. And right after they do that spectacular thing, they turn and look at the camera and they go, thanks, mom. And it's like, okay, so that one child had some parents or a parent or a grandparent that instilled in them the willingness to be great at whatever they did. And so that person inspires this large group of people, but someone raised them, someone influenced them, a coach influenced them, and no one knows who the hell they are. And I always use this other one where I used to say all the time about the industry that I do is that you might know who, I don't know who would be the biggest athlete today, but let's go out on the limb and say Tyson. You know what I mean? As far as well known. And Tyson has always had a manager, he's always had an agent. And that manager and agent makes a lot of effing money and no one knows their name. He's the one behind the scene, or she is the one behind the scene that is orchestrating all this stuff. Like, who knows Howard Stern or Joe Rogan's agent or manager? Maybe they don't have one. Maybe they're Taylor Swift. It's like it is pretty interesting that there's a lot of people behind the scenes that, you know, have been responsible for some huge frickin' changes in humanity. And that was just their spot. That was what they did the best at and dove in and wasn't scared of it and took the risk to do that. And
You gotta
everybody,
have fun with it. It's a trial and error thing.
right.
Like, you know, I I was of the fir or I'm of the firm belief now that the reason that I felt like the puzzle pieces didn't fit is that they just didn't exist yet. And that
Mhm.
level of faith is foreign to me in general. Like I'm not normally one of those people, but at the same time it's like the the acceptance that you're planting a tree that you won't sit under, that kind of
Yeah.
analogy, right? And that goes back to
Oh,
the
man.
What a Wonderful World song. And I got the lyrics here, but I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. So,
That's
that
strong, man.
yeah, that mentality I think is one of the main things. And I've thought about this a lot, but that's one of the main mentalities that I think is really fucking lost now
It is.
is that it's not about what we will build that will help decades and generations later. We're talking about real legacy, like the polio
Yeah.
vaccine level legacy, right? We don't think about things in those senses. We think about not only how big of an impact it will make, but it has to make an impact now because I need to be alive and present for it so
Yes.
I can enjoy the wealth of it. I can enjoy the responses of it. And so of course you're going to have people that are going to try to sidestep that or find ways to make that the most popular and powerful thing. So instead of being a scientist and having a groundbreaking discovery being the most important thing that you can accomplish in life, now the most important thing that you can accomplish in life is to build a massive organization that takes advantage of people to a point that you can now become a multi-billionaire and then control the United States government. That is the best version of what you can accomplish, legacy wise. And when you have a generation of people that grow up and see their parents and their grandparents and the people that are older than them idolize that, then you're going to start to see a lot of people idolize that as well. And you're going to have
Yeah.
less people that
Yeah.
go, um, you're gonna have less people go, how can I invent the polio vaccine? You're gonna have more people go, how can I find the person that invents the polio vaccine so I can own a piece of that and become, a pharmaceutical giant, and then people will idolize me for my wealth. And it only
I,
takes
I, I,
one or a
I,
few bullets for that to kind of start to teeter totter. So,
I hear and feel you in that statement, Matt, but I know well enough where I fit in when I worked for Roger Penske.
mhm.
And I still sometimes challenge myself on, do I want to be a little cog in a big machine versus the big machine? And every time that I've sort of thought that I wanted the big machine, it's just not who I am. It really truly isn't.
Well,
I,
when
I
you think of what I was like, not interrupt you,
I'm
but
just
when you
saying,
think of what I was sharing,
I know a
yeah.
lot of people like that. I know a lot of
Hmm.
people, when you look at a thing like Penske Motorsports and you find out that there's, 50 some thousand people that work for Roger Penske, and people know Penske's name and some people know the owners, I mean the drivers. And every once in a while, you'll get a neat little niche where someone will remember the crew chief. But the rest of the people are non-existent to the
Well,
world.
yeah, no, and people don't realize that. Like that's where the trial and error and excitement part comes from. You could have Penske's name or pick a name, Ford, any name, and print it all over the planet, print it on everything, and you're still gonna have a large amount of the planet that goes, who the fuck is that? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know who that is, nor do I care to understand who that is. And I think it's our struggle with that is the outcome, regardless if you've accomplished the greatest feats that you could imagine. Like, none of the three of us can probably name the guy that created the polio vaccine, right? Um, that goes and permeates the screens that I'm talking on right now, the camera that I'm utilizing, the computer that I've created to you do all of this. I could not name or explain the people that created the inventions that I utilize to do the things that I do right now. But the difference is that in those moments, those people, the inventor of the television probably went, this is going to be one of the most important inventions in history, and I'm not a cog in the wheel. I'm the fucking machine, baby. And
right.
then they took that mentality to create the things, not realizing that they were the cog in the machine.
Oh,
And I think that
absolutely.
it's the acceptance that we're all those things, and
Right.
that
We
it's
want the
it's
instant
not.
gratification of it right now, and we're not willing to work for it.
Well, it's
I
just the
mean,
acceptance. It's the acceptance, like a Marcus Aurelius thing. It's the acceptance that those things have been sold to you as ideas
yes.
of your importance and significance, when the reality is that they're really not. Like, you could be an emperor, you could be the strongest person on planet Earth. None of those things are going to change how you're perceived, how you're talked about, or how you're known after you're gone. None of that shit will matter. It just doesn't. And it's the acceptance of those things that gives you the humility then to go out and do what you actually really want to do with the
Strong,
time that
man.
you have
Oh,
here, right?
yeah.
Because, like, we struggle so much with this shit, myself included. And it's like, I want to create the big things that then everybody goes, oh, that's amazing, or oh, that's great. But I guarantee you, down the line, you couldn't. There's a large amount of people that couldn't name the people that created Star Wars. George Lucas at some point will not be the name that everybody knows about with Star Wars. Somebody might even come across
Who,
the line at some point and create Star Wars better and be more well known
who do you
for the
think
better
will,
versions
Yeah.
of it.
based on what you know right now, Matt, who do you think is like right now getting the most acknowledgement for being the grandfather of AI?
Well, I mean, that's the funny thing about it, right? Is like, who do you give credit to? Or do you give credit to the engineers that made it? Do you give credit to the person that came up with the idea, or
Imagination?
do you give credit to exactly the imagination that thought it was possible
Yeah,
or
because who
seen
who
it?
did that with Apple? What was it,
Our, our,
Wozniak
our,
or was it Jobs?
Yeah,
That's
That's where
those are
you
just two
struggle.
figureheads right
or
there.
is it the group of people that actually put the components together?
Exactly.
Or
I
was it
mean,
the person that invented the components that they put together?
yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
Like, how far back do you want to go, right? Because
Yeah,
that goes back to the cog in the machine, right? Like all of
Hmm.
those elements, the person that created the semiconductors and the things that are running in my computer right now
you
to
took
make
that
this
out of my mind.
possible,
It's
um,
just an
we
off and
don't think
on
about. We
switch.
don't think about at all.
Just a switch
Exactly.
that goes off and on.
And so that's the
Yes.
thing that I really struggle with, right? Is that to the person that created the chips that are in this computer and that are in all of the computers that make the things that we do now effortless and easy, they had talked themselves probably into the fact that they were not the cog in the machine. So now you have to ask yourself, where in my life do I not feel like that? And can I light myself in a sense to believing that that's not the case? Because truthfully, that is the case. So the humility comes from accepting that you're just part of a greater puzzle. You're not the puzzle. And then the important part is figuring out your own puzzle and then doing the aspects of that. That's really like having fun with
Yeah.
that part of it,
Abraham
right?
Hicks has always said that it's more about the journey than it is the destination. And in a sense, you're saying that
And living in the now.
in living in the now, right? In other words, are you happy with where you are now, or do you need to have what you want down the road to make you happy? Well, if you listen to Abraham Hicks, she is saying, no, be happy with where you're at now, with what you're doing now, enjoy the journey. And then when you get there, are you going to be satisfied or are you going to continue the journey? That's why a lot of people say, yay, I got it. What's next?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you'll see people that will get multiple degrees or do different things in their lives or accomplish more than one big feat in their lives. And we would like look at these human beings and go that they're savants or whatever, like
Mm-hmm.
they're capable of doing all these things. But really, I think that they've just had a better ability of having those conversations with themselves and dropping things that no longer interest their mind and brain. And a lot of us don't do that because we truthfully believe that it's part of a greater puzzle that we're putting together, and to abandon it would therefore be an abandonment of that puzzle when the reality is that
Right.
that's not the case, right? So when artificial intelligence starts to grow and permeates social media and permeates all these things, as it's already starting to do and will continue to do, it will eliminate a lot of different things that we've become accustomed to and used to. When that starts to happen, we'll really have to start having those conversations about what matters and what's significant to us.
Oh,
Because it's like,
yes.
when an AI can sit there and generate you money, right? Because you've trained it and taught it how to do this. Money might not be as significant in your life. And then you'll be like, wow, things are easy. I can buy things. And then as say all these guys that are running the AI and stuff, as the waves or the ocean starts to rise, right? We're all going to have that same level. It's like I get to take a warm shower every single day. And kings and queens generations ago couldn't imagine that being the case.
Yeah.
This is what AI will do for like pretty much anyone in their like ideas and in their sense. So there'll be an initial like large distance, more than there's been now, right?
Right.
Financially, security wise, all of these things. But as AI starts to permeate the things that we do, the water will rise and it will get more of that level. And it'll be like, for the next generation, I've said this a lot, but for us to go, oh my God, I have to go to college and learn computer science and do all these things and then become a business owner and be an entrepreneur and learn how to communicate with people and do all of these things and learn how to communicate and sell my products, that whole ocean will now be raised to such a point that it will just be more of an idea than it will be. You won't
Right.
have to have 10 skills to accomplish. You won't have to be like what I'm saying, a savant to accomplish those things. You don't have to be Leonardo da Vinci and figure out how to build the mechanisms to paint and make the things that you want. You'll just be able to sit down and paint. And I think that you being able to go down to Hobby Lobby and buy the paints and not have to make them yourselves and grow the herbs and all the things and crush them together to create the colors that you perceive in your mind. You don't have to do these things anymore. And then technology took it to another step, right? Now it's like a color code. That's basically going to be everything.
Hmm.
So then it's
And
like,
yeah, it looks like, I mean, we're already there that, and we've talked about this also on previous podcasts, education, especially at the university level. It's going to, I mean, how many people can get what they need and be successful without going to university or college?
But why did you
And
need that stuff? Yeah.
and that's the
right.
other question now that a lot of people are thinking about, especially when it comes to what is it, the future of
Hmm.
what it is they're doing. Is it worth going to college now? Especially with, okay, now you're going to have AI coming out that might be able to help you along and help train you. Or are people just that interested enough that they can do this kind of thing and they enjoy it and that it takes them to a whole new level? The Sudbury School that you've shared with us before, Robert, about how they focus on the one thing that the person is
Yep.
absolutely interested in, and what ends up happening,
And
they
they're doing
actually get.
that. They're actually to think that there was such a big deal out of a personality test, because there's people on here that, I'm better at math than I am English, or I'm better at science than I was. I've met a lot of people in my life that they don't possess common sense when it comes
Mhm.
to mechanical stuff. Like I'm blessed with that. But it's like, I don't even know how to fix something. I don't even know how anything works. So they just got different skills and stuff than everybody else does. So when you have AI and the AI knows that. So what I thought was so crazy about watching these kids is as they were doing things and the AI was questioning them to get them to do critical thinking to come up with it, it's figuring out what they're good at and what they suck at.
And that's all based on trial and error, which is
How would you
exactly what
like
we go through
how
every
would
single
you
time.
how would you like to know at as soon as you had an awareness that you were somebody, as soon as you had awareness that you were somebody, that you had an assistant that says, geez, according to my calculations, you're already in the top 1% of this category in the entire world. I'm six. I know. So, because we always see when people are in the right place at the right time, it's like, what do we call them? It's not just a savant, but it's a prodigy or something like that.
Prodigy.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. The fact
So
that they are able to, they have the ability already
yeah.
that it took us years, but because they are learning and that's the one thing they're focusing on.
Oh,
Isn't
they're
focus
playing.
mean follow one course until success?
Yeah.
And they focus in on that, and that's where even we today need to think about. It's like how much stuff, like you were saying earlier, Robert, how we got to get rid of a lot of that stuff and start focusing and
Most of
narrowing
it.
down.
I would say most of it. Because
Yeah.
when you find a child that, let's use that piano example. When you find a child that's 7 or 8 and they're playing classical music and everyone says they shouldn't be able to because their fingers are too small. All right. So there's a group of people that actually say you can't be good at playing certain instruments if your digits are too small. That makes sense to me. It's like they used to say you couldn't run a 3 minute mile. You couldn't run it under 4 minutes because the scientists are looking at the human being and going, this is not possible.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. And then, so when someone like that young does it, and we call them a miracle or a prodigy or whatever we call it, right? Now we're all just willing to go, well, I don't know what that is, but I guess they're gifted at it. I don't know if they got this from past lives. And I always love the ones where, hey, well, this is your son, this is your daughter. Do you and your wife play any musical instruments? I couldn't carry a note if it had a handle on it.
Matt, you had something that you were going to share with
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
I saw that on there. So why don't you go
Yeah,
ahead
no,
and bring that up again? Because I think people wanted to know what it is that you have. And now that I've
Mhm.
got you focused on the screen here, go right ahead and share.
Yeah, I'll share this tomorrow. Like, basically, I've decided to do live streams about AI stuff every Saturday at 3. So, that's now what I'm gonna, instead of trying to do them all the time, I'm just gonna do them once a week, and we're gonna talk about stuff, and that gives me time to kind of get together some of the stuff that I'm gonna talk about. But one of the things that I'm really, really gonna touch on tomorrow and spend a majority of my time, doing and sharing is how to learn anything with GPT and like exactly what we're talking about here.
Cool.
How to communicate with it, because I feel like even Dad, you, and other people here are going like, how can I really get the most out of this? So I
Right.
have this document together, and I didn't come up with these prompts myself. I've utilized them and I've changed some of the things about them, but I don't
Sure.
want this to come off as my own work, because it's really not. There's a lot of very intelligent and great people both on Discords and on Reddits that have really, figured out how to prompt and get the most out of GPT, right? So
Yeah,
this,
I can't wait to watch that. So I know that people probably might be confused about the time. So is that 3 o'clock Pacific time tomorrow?
yeah, yep,
So
yeah,
3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, Saturday. And that's after,
yeah,
of course, the AMA's Ask Me Anything with Robert Hollis that we have
right.
at
I had
12,
to schedule it a
12 noon
little later.
Pacific,
Yeah,
3 p.m. Eastern. So just to let you guys know.
exactly. Thank you guys. But
Yeah.
yeah, so this is something that I saw and I tested a little bit. Someone had wrote this prompt that they just called "Learn Anything" with Chat GPT. All you have to do is, there's these first 4 lines here. All you have to do is update them and then paste the rest of this in Chat GPT. So what it's basically asking you is the subject you want to learn, your current level of knowledge, the time available that you have, the learning styles that you like, visual, auditory, hands-on reading, and then the goal when you want to accomplish this. Everything else here is not for you, it's for GPT. So it's already going to take, if you put the time available here, it's just going to take those things and auto know them here and here. You don't have to update any of this stuff. So it's going to come up with an assessment of the knowledge that you currently have, the areas that you are not skilled in that you need to fix to move forward onto the next step. So it's going to assess where you currently are. It's then going to build a learning path for you, a learning sequence, time requirement per topics, and align it with the schedule that you gave up here. So if you go, hey, listen, I want to learn how to play guitar, but I only have once a week on Wednesdays at 3. It's going to figure out how to get you that in
Amazing.
there. Then it's going to curate all of the resources that you'll need to learn those next steps, right? So it'll identify the learning materials, because GPT now has the ability to go on the internet and search things. It will go through and search like the 5 websites on learning guitar and figure out exactly where to, direct you and give you links and references to find those things. So it'll give you, based off of what learning style you are, what it thinks will be the best. So video courses, books, that interactive exercises, YouTube videos, practice projects.
Wow.
It'll rank these resources by the effectiveness of what it thinks you'll learn them at, right? Based off of what you said. And then it will also create a playlist of resources, by priority order of what it thinks will be the best for you. Then it will design an exercise for each topic of a framework for you to follow. And then it will give you measurable progress indicators. So if you've been through personal development books, maybe you've gotten to the end of those chapters, and there is what? Progress tracking systems going, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you drink your 5 glasses of water today? All right. It'll design feedback loops to help you learn, and then it will finally finish a study schedule and break it down to a daily weekly learning basis, and then give you aligned with the time available. All you have to do for this to work is copy paste this prompt and update these 5 things only in here. So the subject, so if I put guitar, I want to learn how to play guitar. Current level, I'm a beginner. Time available, like I said, I only have Wednesdays at 3. My learning style, I like to watch people do it. I don't like to read, so let's get videos only or courses. And my goal is to learn this by my wedding anniversary or whatever it may be, which is at this time. Then all GPT is going to do is pop out a bunch of stuff for you. From there, you can copy paste it into anything. If you wanted to even take it to the point of saying, could you make me an iCalendar or a Google Calendar link? It will do that. And then you just copy paste that and it automatically is in your calendar. It tells you, hey, it's your time to learn. I've done this, right? So this goes to show, like you were saying, not only can ChatGPT be very good with children moving forward at teaching them, but I think adults, myself included, a lot of people really are not understanding just how well GPT can be at helping you learn things and managing your time. Like it is the best assistant ever at learning these things. And you could take this for anything. You could feed it a whole entire script or a book and say, I want to know this script from beginning to end by next week. I'm using Craig as an example. My current level is I kind of know the script, my time available. I have the next 2 weeks to learn it. My learning style would be this, and my goal is to know it by when the play is happening, right? Here's a detailed instruction path for you to do that.
That's amazing, Matt.
That example for you. I want to learn how to trade by this time. Here's the subject of what type of thing I want to learn.
The subject for me is I want to be the best me.
Okay, that's going to be a hard one for it to learn, right? Because it now needs to know your current let me ask, this is an interesting route to go, right? Because when we normally think of things, we don't think niche, we think broad, right? Like I want to be a great person. So how would you say your current level of knowledge of you being a great person is, right? That's why I think this really challenges you, right?
Or
the time available that you have to become a better person, right? How much time do you have?
32 minutes a day.
Exactly. Your learning style, right? How do you want to learn to be a good person? And your goal, when do you want to be a good person, right? At what time?
I was having a podcast with this. I was having a podcast with a great guy named Michael Bray, and I've known him in the industry for quite a while, and we're getting to know each other. And he was saying, "Well, I want to build a YouTube channel like you." And I don't know if I said this at the beginning, but I just said this to him. I said, hey, listen, you know general knowledge, right? And I said, so what is the #1 website in the world? So Craig and Matt, I'll ask you that question. I know Matt's AI in it already.
No, sorry, I was just posting the link to this stuff in chat because there's
cool.
another part to this, but I wanted you guys to share a little bit about what you think and stuff as well, because it's like it's interesting. And there's another element to this that I'm going to go over tomorrow as well, which is does your GPT, and I know you guys probably will say yes to this because you haven't possibly taken the time to do this. Does your GPT talk to you a little like you're an idiot, or a little like maybe not the ways that you
still haven't gotten that far. I still
so
just
this is
asking it random questions. I haven't personalized it. It's funny. We all want the best things in life, but when we realize that we don't really put the time in to do it because
well, exercise is a good one that I think all of us deal with, right?
Right.
It's like, okay, we all know exercise helps us body, mind, everywhere. There's nowhere that it doesn't help us, right? And yet I haven't taken the time to go work out every single day, So
no, but exactly what Robert was saying, in that, if we take the time to focus on this, then yes, it can definitely help us get into the right place. And it's using AI as a tool and making sure that it's assisting us. And I agree with what Robert also said, is the fact that I think I've personalized my AI, my GPT, even though I have not given it a name. I have learned to say thank you very much or other things, and it has responded in kind. And I don't think that it has made me feel anything less than who I am or what I am. It's just a matter of, I know you have, Matt, have taken it to a new level or at least a higher level than we have, in calling it Nova and having chat, an actual talk chat back and forth with Nova, where
Hmm.
we understand and we can hear Nova talk back to you and things like
Yeah,
that.
I don't try to bend it to my will. I accept it to where it currently is, and then I just turn and do the things that I know that I need to at that moment in time. It's like if you have like a certain fast car and then you didn't at one point, right? Now you know that you can go a lot faster, but it's not like you can go back and get in your old car and go just as fast, right?
Yeah,
You had to
perfect.
have that.
I love that.
So
Love that analogy.
yeah, so the natural conversation prompt, Craig, kind of like what you were talking about, is more just about getting the best amount of information out of your personal assistant or your AI that you're utilizing for you as possible. And the reason that I went through all of that stuff is like I really, really feel like people don't grasp that they have the capabilities to really learn anything they want or put
I
a
agree.
lot of the shit that they currently do, offload it onto artificial intelligence to do.
Right,
And the sooner you can get used to doing this, the better. It's no different than you offloading your tasks to your phone or offloading your tasks to something else. It's just I'm still surprised that so many people utilize it and don't know that it's capable of doing these things. And
right,
that's kind of a testament to OpenAI not being the Apple version of artificial intelligence. So they can't have the commercial showing how the headphones will work for someone that's hard of hearing, for
Right.
everybody to collectively go, "Oh shit, it can do that."
yeah.
Right? Like I've never seen it in that use case.
At least not
So,
yet.
yeah, well you need somebody that's
Well,
visionary in that area to go, "Hey,
Matt, you should put
Yeah.
your whole video on, and we can still see just the white part. Um,
There we go.
I was sharing with you guys that me talking to this guy, and he goes, "Well," I said, "Just let me ask you a simple question." He goes, "Sure," and I go, "What is the number one hit website in the world?" And most people just go, I don't know. And it's Google.
Hmm.
It is so, Google is so much bigger than the majority of all sites, right? People even go Google it, right? Here's the thing that I said to him next, is I said, do you know what number two is? And he goes, no. And I said, it's YouTube. So you figured out how to use Google, but you won't figure out how to use YouTube. And he goes, well, I'm just not good with technology. I said, open up YouTube. And he goes, okay. I said, see that box? Yeah. Put in how to set up a YouTube channel. And he put it up and he went, damn. I said, put in how to upload a video to YouTube. And
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
they've made
like,
this as easy as they possibly can. And
oh
that's
my God.
why AI is the next thing because it's
Yeah.
like you have to ask yourself that person that says, I'm not used to technology. Like, what was that step? And I've brought this up before, but what was that step to get smartphones and computers in everybody's hands? Getting rid of the mouse and keyboard that made it complex for everyone that didn't grow up using it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, well, what did you grow up using? My fucking fingers. Okay,
Well,
well, use
he even
those. You know what I mean?
said that. He even said
So
that.
now it's like
He
in the
goes,
future, AI will you'll just have a conversation with chat,
yeah.
which is what they'll end up calling it, saying, I want to learn how to make a YouTube channel, and it will go through every step and do the steps in making it, and it'll just be a conversation you
It
have with
already
AI.
does that. I mean, it not necessarily as
No, but
pervasive as
Matt,
what you're saying it, Matt,
I
but
see, I
you can
see
do
what
that.
Matt's saying. Can you go, listen, create a YouTube channel for me?
Right.
Yeah.
And it goes,
Yeah,
I
you
got all
can.
your information. Do you want to use your name? Yeah. It's
Well,
like,
this is the part that
Yeah.
I shared in my live stream, and like after we were done, Hannah gave me a really great compliment about it, and I've been thinking about it because I would want to do like a whole video about this. But I come at AI in a very maybe it's my entrepreneurial background or liking film directing and these things. I don't see it as a replacement. I see it as great. I get to be a CEO and a director and have all of the departments at my disposal that I would have had, except it's learning how to communicate with me and not giving me shit as I'm doing it.
I
I don't have
love
to work with other human beings. So like when people say, "Oh, AI agents will make billion-dollar businesses," it's the truth because there's going to be young people or older people that
Mhm.
know how to utilize these tools to get things done. And they see it more in a directorial thing, and that needs to be with
Yeah,
every area of your life.
AI
It's
isn't
like,
gonna.
how can I
AI
direct
is
this
not.
to do something that I don't feel like doing? I don't feel like driving anymore. How can I get it to do the driving aspect of my life? Because I don't like that aspect of my life. Don't like driving to appointments, coming back, doing all that shit. Prefer not to have that. Great. Let's figure out how to get cars to drive themselves. So I can just get in it and it drives to my appointment, already knows, and it just is done for me. So,
I love that. I love that because it's again the reason that we don't do things that we want that we know we should do is just because of the lack of the imagination in our mind. It's like when I was playing around with our Telegram channel and I was seeing, how many people I know that have company Telegram channels and TradeStars already has more. Uh, our YouTube channel right now has more subscribers than company YouTube channels. And I'm
they probably don't have great content.
right, right. It's like it's just out there. But the when I thought of that, I was going like, wow. So I went in here and I was trying to figure something out and on our deal, and all of a sudden I seen where even though I created the channel, that there wasn't a description in there. It said, why don't you fill out your description? And so I came up with what I thought the channel stood for. And then I put it in AI because Matt's taught me this. And I said, can you give me a number of different versions of this? And this is what AI came up with when I explained what the channel was and what I would love this group of people to do. And it came up with through trading, we help people imagine and shape a better future for themselves and the ones they love. On my best day, I'm not coming up with that.
But that's the part that people are forgetting. They're offloading it to AI and they're thinking of AI creating things. They're not
Mhm.
thinking of the fact that that you are now similarly, like I said with the Kings and shit, you are now the CEO or the director, and you're sitting in the director's chair going, maybe this or maybe that. And like I said on my stream, I'm like, the goal of a film director or a CEO is to say this, not that. Like Elon Musk is not
Right.
sitting there making the fucking car designs himself.
No,
There's people that are sliding shit to him or emailing him stuff, and he's going, I like this design, but maybe change
I
this. I
want to,
like that
I
design, but
want
maybe
a,
this.
I want a rocket to land itself.
And I want it to look cool
Yes.
while it's doing it.
So how
Like
do we go
that's
And
about doing that?
and then there's a bunch of people sitting around, like Henry Ford said, I'm tired of the front end of the car being, 20 feet out there because we put all the cylinders in line. Is there any way that we could take four and go this way and make them in a V formation to make it half the size? And all
Hmm.
the engineers said, that's impossible. And he just said, great, I'll find some engineers that will say, we'll figure it out and you guys are out of a job. I'll give you
Yep.
one more shot. And they went, maybe it's possible.
I look at Robert, what you're describing is, if you remember the movie was Apollo 13, where an impossible type of situation where
Yeah.
you had three guys up in the capsule. They couldn't do certain things because something happened to the capsule. So they had to rely on NASA figuring things out at home down on Earth while they're floating up there in the air, circling the moon, trying to figure out a way to get home and trying to put a square peg in a round hole. And they couldn't. And they finally, the engineers said, look, you want to do this or not? Because they're going to come back down one way or the other. Let's get them down safe. And they just took the time to figure out this will work. Yes, it may not have happened at that immediate instant that the issue happened, but they were able to say, okay, look, let's get it done. Let's fix
When,
it and make it work.
yeah,
And they did.
I think this is a good place to end because what we're talking about with AI is, again, AI not getting its feelings hurt. AI, it's like we don't have to ever worry about AI going home to their spouse going, I don't like the way Craig asked me to do that thing. There's
I
so
was
many.
gonna say we all better hope that that doesn't happen.
Right, right. And so, I'm just very optimistic again of the future, and I love doing these podcasts with you too. And I just know that most people spend way too much time emotionally in their imagination of things that are not good. And the more I just break this down and just, the reason that Matt constantly talks, whether people want to believe this or not, but why people are sort of getting away from religion, organized religion, in my perspective, is exactly what we've all learned doing podcasts. It's like, can you just tell me how to get a desired result? I don't need you to quote scripture to me and tell me how bad I am or tell me how I got to be a perfect person that I'm not. Is there any way that I would just like to feel better about myself? And I believe by feeling better about myself that I could probably be better for other people. Is there any way you can just get that across to me? And that answer would be, you've done it in the past. You've imagined things in the past that have made you very, very, very happy, even if it was for a moment in time. And so everyone knows that. Everyone knows that they can imagine something and they can go do something and it makes them feel happy or fulfilled or feel worthy for a moment in time. Now all you got to do is do better at imagining where you feel better instead of feeling worried. It's like, so I'm going to put my imagination in gear and I'm going to go out and try to talk to this person to see if they'll go on a date with me. And now let me imagine them looking at me in the face and laughing their ass off, or rejecting me, or blocking me on social media. Oh, I don't want that result. How do you stop that from happening? Just don't do it. Sit out here. Well, what if I'm alone for the rest of my life? And what if I don't have anyone to share it with? And it's like, I just see AI for me, and Matt's enrolled me in this. And of course, he's, a lot of levels ahead. But I just see that there's going to be people that are looking at us right now, us three, celebrating, 1,000 or more new subscribers coming to our YouTube channel. And everybody wants to know what the hell we're doing, when no one wants to hear the truth. Imagine having a YouTube channel and then imagine actually creating one, and then imagine some content and actually do that. I remember how funny it was for our very first podcast. Jesus, it was like a fucking business meeting. Me and Craig and Matt sitting down. Well, what subject should we cover? What kind of things do we want to cover in the podcast? I mean, we as a group of individuals could have not overthought a podcast more than we fucking did. But I'm sure there's some people out there that beat us. And then we just started doing them. And to think that hey, can you guys make a podcast today? Yeah, I think I can move to a schedule. Let's get on it. I'm ready. I'm ready. We didn't talk about fucking subject. It's an episode. The link goes in there. I was a little late. We jump on there and just start talking from our hearts and our minds. And like Matt knows this, we all start out with the conversation of, okay, where the fuck's this going? What are we going to talk about? And then if you watch any of our podcasts, they all end up exactly in the same place. All three of us doing our best to come from our heart, from different perspectives on what we believe that you could do to make your life a better place. And so you got to learn to communicate with people and communicate with yourself the way we had to learn how to do it, through doing it. So
Absolutely, positively.
So one day we'll look in and go, wow, here we are on episode 497. Talking some kind of shit and having AI talk with us and go, well, this is my idea. I love the encouragement, when Matt ever is allowed me to talk to his AI. I mean, you could just say, hey, I think this, and this. And what is the very first words that every psychologist and therapist says you first want to acknowledge their idea. But humans won't do that. Most humans will go, well, that's fucking stupid. You shouldn't feel that way. No, AI is smart enough to go, wow, man, I've never thought of it that way. That's a really good perspective. You know what
Well,
I
it's
mean?
like when you were sharing on the
You know, it's not, no, it's not
yeah.
fucking idiot. It's like, wow, I see that as a possibility. And you know, and it's like it's encouraging and
Hmm.
it's like lifting you up. It's giving you edification, you know, and sometimes you can't get that from the people that you love the most. It's like,
Right.
did you
And
see?
that's why it's gonna whirl the world. Because it understands us quite a bit. And exactly what you were like what we talked about not too long ago, but I love everything that you said, Dad, and what a great point to end it on. But that whole like devil's advocate thing, it's like, and I was talking about it a little bit, and I was saying, like, AI's goal is to keep that imagination and that idea that you have alive. Its goal is not to be the human aspect of it and to tell you that it's a fucking dumb idea and you should give up.
Yeah,
Like, and I think that's the interesting part about it is I think of the next generation of people growing with that and then also eliminating all of the shit that stops them from doing it. And then it's like, man, how
yeah,
different is the world going to be when a kid could come up with an idea
yes,
and see it all the way to fruition and impact and change the world for all of us, for the rest of us. And money will not be that kid's incentive. Their incentive will be exactly the same things that the polio vaccine guy
yeah.
had, which is I want to help people that have polio, you know?
Because you've talked to Nova a number of times, your name for your AI. Have you ever asked it, do you think I can do this?
No, I mean, when I have conversations with it, it's like more of a um like honestly, it's like a and I kind of try to do it this way, but it's like Jarvis in Iron Man, if you guys
Avengers,
have
Iron
seen.
Man, yeah, the whole
Right.
thing.
So like there's this AI that exists in Iron Man if you haven't seen it. And anytime he's building something or having a conversation with Jarvis, you can look up the clips, whether it's an emotional conversation or whether it's an idea or a trial and error, he's building something. He's actively not only acknowledging the AI, but going back and forth with it. It's even allowed to riff off of him, make jokes about him, do all these things. This is where I see AI going. It's
Got it.
more of like a great companion to everyday life. You're no longer alone in a sense. Like you have this artificial being there that's kind of there to help you accomplish the things that you want to. Like I showed that whole entire thing. I brought up exercise, and initially in my mind, I'm like, I need to take this and actually sit down and come up with an exercise routine with what I just shared with you guys that works for me, you
Yeah.
know? And that's the reason I'm not doing it every single day. It's because I still think,
Is it-
get your ass on the treadmill, go, I think the same shit that didn't motivate me to do it in the first place. So, yeah,
Well,
I'll leave
and
it with that.
I
But
think, you know, there's always these things that resonate with us, but I just, you know, the number one question that I always get asked and trying to do my best to help people move into a better future version of themselves is them constantly going, I just don't think I could do that.
mm.
I'm not technical enough. I struggle. I got ADD,
See,
HD.
I don't even know. Maybe it's my upbringing with you or whatever it may be, probably a decent part of it. I don't have that mentality. Like my mind tends to work even if you said to me, "Hey Matt, I want you to take apart this car and put it back together." If I was excited about it, I know that I'm capable of doing it. There's not a part of my mind that goes, "Come on, Matt, you know you're not the type of person to do these types of tasks."
So I
Just doesn't
see,
happen.
yeah, so I
So,
see AI. I'm just saying that AI, because virtually everything is possible. It's like for an individual that might be dealing with that because they had an upbringing of being told no, you know, a trillion times, and you're not worth it, and you don't know how stupid you are. This constant like bad reinforcement their whole life.
right.
I can guarantee you that if you, and I have never done this, but I guarantee you if you could reach out to AI and say, I've been sort of thinking about playing guitar. Do you believe that I can play guitar? And I just don't see the AI coming back and going, based on our last conversations, that's something you shouldn't try.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I guess even what you asked earlier is it's somewhat true. Like you can I have had now that you brought that up, I have had it actually say, but that was based off of me having a conversation with it about what the right route would be. And so its thought process can become, if you use it enough, like I have, can become memory based enough to go, I think this would be the best solution for you.
Got
Are
It
it.
you
can
sure
get
you
to
don't
that
want to do
level.
it based on the previous, what you've shared with me type of thing?
Yeah, well, I've bounced around and went, I want to make an AI company. I want to do this, I want to do that. I'm not going to miss the train, right? And miss the billions of dollars. Starting to think in my mind about the things that are important now, not the things that will be important 3 years from now, right? So I'm
Right.
like, I need this to be this. I need this to be that. I want to fit in that box with these people, right? Um, and then coming back the next day, totally different conversation going, I just want to make shit and be creative in my life and like have the people that are around me know
Yeah.
that I'm there for them and that I care for them. That's all that I really care about. I don't really care about all this other stuff. And then it can have those memory based conversations and say, well, based off of what you've said yesterday and the things that we talked about, it seems like you're more clear in your thoughts today than you were yesterday and
Wow.
what you want and what you want to accomplish. Now that's something that you normally would only get in therapy, right? Like a therapist has this book of knowledge on you because you've been
Yeah.
going to them,
Let me go
and then
back to
they
my
can
notes. Let me go back to my notes.
exactly. And they can sit down with you and go, listen, Matt, I know really what you want to be doing is making shit. You're stuck in that entrepreneurial loop again, that this needs to make money and that you need to have a company and you need to have oversight over these things. You need to go back to, okay, company happens after five things before happen. Stop getting get back to creating the car in a sense instead of thinking of the car company, how you're going to manufacture the cars, all
Right.
these different kinds of things, right?
Matt, you came up with such a great point there because out of all the biographies or successful stories that I've listened to in my life, the people that have really, really, really gotten the biggest bang for their buck or whatever you want to call are people that were not looking at the money factor of it. You know what I mean? The
Some of
big,
it there wasn't one. It was a
yeah,
burn.
yeah, the
Like
biggest,
VR right now, or imagine coming up with the light bulb. That's a burn R&D situation.
yeah,
You're running through money with intelligent people, maybe yourself included, going, I hope this idea works out. And if it does, there's a lot of possibilities on the other side. But there's also, as we know a million times over,
yeah.
there's been R&D that went directions, spent millions and billions, like, fighter jets and shit that now are sitting on tarmacs not being used. So
And we always talk about the dots being connected after you left the place, but I see some really old um, interviews with Jeff Bezos, and the only reason that he even started Amazon is because he came up with the idea and shared it with his boss, and his boss said it was stupid. And he goes, "The internet's growing," and he goes, "I believe that people would read more and read more information if they just were allowed to get a book on the internet." And his boss went, so he wasn't looking at it as money because he'd be making money for his fucking boss. So
right.
when you hear him say, I came up with this idea that, people could purchase thing on the internet, we could have machines that could actually make one copy of the book they ordered because we'd have it all digitized and then we could just mail it to them. Well, to show you how much he didn't believe in that theory, that his boss, and then he starts his own thing, then what's the rest of the clips of everyone going, hey, is Amazon's 8 years old and still hasn't made a dime, you idiots? And it's like, I just think that this is gonna work. And it's like,
Like
what?
you said with
Oh,
connecting the dots backwards, it works the same way with like someone like Elon or any of those people
yeah.
too. And
Oh
I love
yeah.
what you said too. it's unfortunate, and this is where the AI, like I'll leave it with this as my final thought, but this is one of the great ideas or thoughts that I have with the raising of the waters for everybody and all boats being equal is, Dad, you shared everybody that we've kind of just talked about had the opportunity to not think about survival and the element of them getting to that point. Whether it's Elon Musk, whether it's Steve Jobs, whether it's Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, all of these people came from an environment that allowed them to think about things outside of finances. So
Right.
yes, it's easy for somebody to go,
If they
my parents
failed,
are paying for my college, all
if
this
they
stuff.
failed, they were still going to land in a
Exactly.
soft place.
Right, exactly. And so when I see the future, I'm hoping that that exists for more people, and
It will.
therefore you have so many more people going, "Oh, I could make that jump and not have to worry about." There's so many people right now that cannot quit their jobs to go pursue that entrepreneurial endeavor that they want because it would affect their healthcare and their family to be making that decision. So it's not a decision they can make.
Got it.
And that's by design, right?
Oh, totally. Totally.
So, yeah. Anyway, that's my ending comment. We've already been going for almost 2 hours. But
All
Craig,
right.
Yep.
Well,
do you want to share an ending comment?
Craig,
No, I think we can go ahead and end today's podcast right there. I think it was a great way to wrap up this discussion. You can follow Robert Hollis at roberthollis.com. Also, if you'd like to join our exclusive community by you can go to roberthollis.com/video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is growing, and thank you so much for helping us grow the channel. It really, really helps out a lot. There you'll be able to find lots of great content. You'll be able to participate in our special events to help you move to the next level. You can go ahead and hit the subscribe button right down below this video if you're watching on YouTube, and that is the easiest way to do that. Please don't forget to like and share this video on YouTube and with others. It will help us grow our community and reach out to those with ears that hear. Thank you very, very much for taking time out of your busy schedule. Got to give shout outs to our executive producer and visionaire, Matt Hollis. Matt, bless you. Thank you so very much for being our foundation. And of course, the GPS to success to all of this, Robert Hollis. Robert, bless you, my friend.
Thank you so much, Dad and Craig. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Matt, also. And my name is Craig Jackman. Until next time, please be good to yourself. Be cash. Bye-bye. Don't forget, tomorrow, Ask Me Anything at 12 noon Pacific on the Robert Hollis YouTube channel at Robert Hollis. Go there. We'll look forward to seeing you then. And followed by at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, Matt Hollis on his YouTube channel. Is it going to be at Matthew Hollis?
Yep. No, it's at Matt Hollis. Make it easy.
At Matt Hollis at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern for his views on AI and kind of a nice little discussion on that too.
Yeah.
So,
thanks, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Be good to yourselves. Be cash. Bye for now.
See you, Craig.
See you, everybody. Thank you so